Hello, good morning and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. The NPP, led by Dr. Bawumia, if voted into power in the 2024 elections, will abolish betting tax. They will abolish e-levy. They will remove duties on mobile phones. They will grant tax amnesty. They will reform VAT. There will be a flat tax rate. There will be a review of the single spine salary structure. There will be a reform of ex gratia. MMDCEs will be elected. Remember the botched referendum? Ministers will be capped at 50. There will be free tertiary scholarship for PWDs. The Cape Coast Airport construction, it will be done. There will be additional holiday for Muslims, Eid al-Adha. There will be a national credit scoring system, among others. Of course, there will be an implementation of the Polugu irrigation scheme. Bold solutions, he calls them, found in 260-page manifesto. The NDC launches it today, this afternoon. We'll interrogate the bold solutions by the NPP. The NDC believes in peace, peaceful elections, but this time it says it is tired of the hypocrisy. It is tired of signing a pact that is not respected or that does not yield any results. So it has conditions to sign onto the peace pact. There must be an implementation of the Ayawaso West Wagon by-election recommendations. You remember Emil Short, Henrietta Mensah Bonsu, and former IGP Commission. What did they say? What did government white paper also say? How has the recommendations been implemented, if any at all? They want prosecution of 2020 election violence perpetrators. You remember, as many as 8 people were killed in that election. They want resolution of ballot paper irregularities. They want investigation of missing EC equipment. They want Akufo-Addo to commit to respecting election outcomes, and the peace pacts should be signed with the president as well, the AG, the IGP, the Chief Justice, and National Security. We will be right back to deal with the vexed matters. I'm Samson, Lardy, Anyenini. Welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. My take, I title it, What a Serious Manifesto Must Not Miss, CDD. That's what the CDD is saying. It issued a statement, and I adopt for my take. The CDC says this year's manifestos must respond to unprecedented governance, socio-economic and security challenges. These challenges include the worst economic crisis since the 1980s, national indebtedness, rampant government corruption, widening inequality, high and persistent youth unemployment, increasing poverty, weak institutions for accountability and local administration, a looming health and environmental crisis exemplified by galamsey, illegal mining, ravaged forest and water bodies, and internal chieftaincy, tribal, and land-related conflicts. In the center's assessment, persistent misgovernance is at the core of these problems. Persistent misgovernance is at the core of these problems and is beginning to threaten the foundations of the Fourth Republic. The trends portend danger for Ghana's 31-year-old democracy, as evidenced by the recent Afrobarometer analysis report, African Insights. The report reveals that satisfaction with democracy in Ghana has dropped by 23% between 2011 and 2023. In the center's view, any aspiring president or governing party's manifesto must commit to the proposals that they lay out with clear timelines if they wish to demonstrate to Ghanaians that they are serious about tackling the country's challenges in the short to medium term. Among others, they are asking for a review of local governance, local democracy, and activation of local citizenship. Of course, on the top of the local governance issue is the fact that the CVV did a survey which revealed 76% of citizens want their metropolitan municipal district chief executives to be elected, and 71% prefer these elections to be non-partisan, not what Akufo-Addo wanted, which was botched. They also are asking for a manifesto that tells exactly how to combat pervasive and persistent grand and petty sector corruption. They say one of the biggest drivers of public sector corruption is the abundant opportunities for corrupt officials and their collaborators to exploit weak internal controls in public services, to steal public money. Numerous public ethics prohibitions, such as influence peddling, conflict of interest, and nepotism, have not been properly codified. The passage of the decade-old Conduct of Public Officers Bill will help address this loophole, which is exploited daily by these miscreants, and miscreants, my own word. And they say that there's a need to fulfill the government of Ghana's commitment under the IMF to pass this bill into law. They want a manifesto that tells how exactly you can reduce the cost of politics and stop corruption at the source, reduce the cost of politics, significantly improve governance and productivity of state-owned enterprises, which have been making losses because you put square pegs in round holes in these entities. You put people who are supposed to manage them, people that you will not even give your farm to manage, your backyard garden to manage. As I have said before, you must stop appointing to these entities MPs, appointing to boards MPs. You should stop that. It doesn't work. The conflict of interest is so clear. So they say preclude individuals with political party roles from serving as board members of SOEs and prohibit the appointment of MPs to boards of SOEs. Depoliticize the public service. We are tired of it. Depoliticize the public service. Ghanaians must get employment when they deserve it on merit, and it must not be because one belongs to any political party. And the constitutional reform agenda must continue. This is by the CDD. For any serious manifesto by anybody aspiring to be president or form government of the next, form the next government. And that will be my take We'll be right back. Introduce my guest to you as we get into the two biggest issues we are looking for you today. That is the NPP's bold solutions. How long shall we wait for the implementation of these bold solutions? And the NDC's conditions for signing the peace pact. We'll be right back.
It remains the fact that between 2020 and 2022, we experienced severe challenges triggered by the pandemic, which brought the world and our country to a thundering halt. The world experienced the greatest economic depression since the 1930s, with most countries recording negative GDP growth. Supply chain disruptions and the rising price of oil resulted in major increases in the prices of fuel, freight, and food across the globe. Indeed, Ghanaians were hit very hard by rising food prices, increased exchange rate depreciation, rising fuel prices, and rising transport fares. Our debt became unsustainable and had to be restructured. Bondholders saw a sharp decline in their net worth following the painful yet unavoidable debt restructuring program. We faced very challenging times, but with calm leadership and the support and understanding of the good people of Ghana, we have weathered the storm, and the economy is firmly on the path of recovery, with increasing GDP growth and declining inflation. It is gratifying to note that our policy interventions have started yielding the desired macroeconomic results. Many economists and analysts have rightly stated that Ghana has turned the corner, but we know that for many families, the cost of living is still very high. There remains the fact that between 2020 and 2022, we experienced severe challenges triggered by the pandemic, which brought the world and our country to a thundering halt. We are equally committed to creating more job opportunities that will significantly reduce youth unemployment among the national population that has increased over 5 million in the last 8 years alone. We have created so far 2.3 million jobs, the most of any government in the Fourth Republic. But youth unemployment remains a major concern and that confronts us, and we are committed to doing even more. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, it is better to continue with a party that has created more jobs than any other in the Fourth Republic than go back to a party and a leader who, after 4 years of doom so, created more unemployment than any government in the Fourth Republic. The world is facing what is commonly referred to as the global cost of living crisis. Even though the inflation has dropped by half this year, prices remain high. I want a Ghana where we can attain food security through the application of technology and irrigation to commercial large-scale farming. We will also promote the use of agricultural lime to reduce the acidity of our soils, enhance soil fertility, and get more yield from the application of fertilizers. Ghana has an abundance of limestone to do this. I will prioritize the the construction of the Pualugu Dam by using the private sector financing to crowd in grant financing. Ladies and gentlemen, we will also ensure food security by stabilizing the prices of foods produced locally through financing and guarantees from the Development Bank Ghana and the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agriculture. The ECD is designed to work online and offline and will be launched by the Bank of Ghana in due course. The ECD will be the ultimate weapon in our fight against corruption because it will provide transparency, reduce the risk of fraud, robbery, tax avoidance, and money laundering, since it will be easy to track the movement of money and identify suspicious activity. The ECD will quicken the pace of Ghana's move towards a cashless or a near cashless society. We will also, ladies and gentlemen, implement blockchain technology and smart contracts for secure data exchange and transparent government services. Employing a distributed ledger technology improves transparency and efficiency. This will make all government transactions permanently traceable and not subject to alteration. I want Ghana to be the first country in Africa and one of the few in the whole world to become an all-government blockchain government. If there was any doubt, to believe it is crystal clear from the data-backed account we have given that our overall performance and track record are superior to that of my opponent and his party in virtually every sector. Virtually every sector we are superior. But I believe, as a former president and a proud student of history, he knows that. And that is one part of the reason why he is avoiding a debate.
Dr. Bawumia there, the NPP's flag bearer, presidential candidate, talking about enlisting some at least 380 promises. They have tagged bold solutions found in their manifesto of 260 pages. Yes, bold solutions, including to continue and improve free SHS. Continue and improve. There will not be a review, I suppose, because a review means it will be scrapped. In the politics, it's not easy. Establish a national open university. They intend to do. They will implement the Pualugu irrigation scheme. When will that dam actually kick off? After how many years of cutting sod for it? And how much sunk into only feasibility work? Progressively reduce the cost of data. Both parties are talking about reducing the cost of data. There will be a national credit scoring system. He's been talking about this for a while. He will harmonize port charges. There will be an additional holiday for Eid al-Adha. Then the Cape Coast Airport construction will happen. Protect Ghanaian cultural and family values. That sounds like what is pending at the Supreme Court, most unlikely to be decided before the elections. Free tertiary scholarships for PWDs. He's going to cap ministers by 50. John Mahama is promising 60. What is this current government doing? 85 or more? And why can't we have 50 now? I think that's the question people are asking. Elect MMDCEs. Remember the botched MMDCE process? When it could be done by Parliament, the president says, let's go to a referendum and make it partisan. The CDD research says Ghanaians prefer it to be non-partisan. Is that what he's promising? Doesn't look like that. Reform ex gratia. How exactly? Review single spine salary structure, among other things. In tax, area of tax, there's going to be a flat tax rate, tax amnesty, VAT reform. You abolish betting tax. His opponent promises that. He will also abolish e-levy. His opponent, who is against it, of course, insists that that must happen. And then there'll be a removal of duties on mobile phones. How will you do that under this economy that is hemorrhaging? Well, the NPP has a way of describing the struggling economy that the opponent and some of us say is in crisis. They say the rebounding economy. My guest in the studio, Kofi Koranting, tough talking, very blunt, 2024 presidential hopeful, new vision movement. Thank you for making the time to join us, Kofi.
Samson, good to have.
Great.
How you doing?
I'm great, thanks for asking. Andrew Ejapamesa is MP, Secondee, and Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture. You saw him and you heard him at the manifesto launch. Inus Afoseni is lawyer, former MP. If I say lawyer, then I should say Japamesa is also lawyer. He's a lawyer, former MP, Tamale Central, and former Minister Lands and Natural Resources, as well as Roads and Highways. And Dr. John Osai Kwapong, Democracy and Development Fellow, CDD Ghana, and Director, the Democracy Projects, the Afro Barometer man, also joins us. So, gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure indeed.
Great. So, let me start with the man in the middle.
Okay.
You've seen the promises, 380 of them by our counts, bold solutions indeed, including that e-levy will be scrapped, betting tax will go, and a host of a number of things. There will be election of MMDCEs, among others. Cost of living, they call it, do they also admit it's a crisis? Cost of living crisis will be reduced. Yes, Inus of Seni.
Yes, I think it's proper, Samson, to say good morning to my, is it former colleague?
Oh, you're still my colleague.
A member, yeah, and at the bar.
Right.
A member of Parliament. Was Secondee.
Yes, Secondee.
Stepped into the shoes of Papa Uso Nkrumah. For a very long time since I left Parliament. And the Kofi
Koranting, correct.
New Vision Party. And to your good self, Samson. We're just left with a little under or about 4 months to go to national elections. And, you know, elections are generally about a social compact between the people and those who seek to lead them. Now, so manifestos are a critical part of the preparations towards entering into a social compact with the people. Now, you must understand that we are in a democracy and you can't take all the people for granted. And so when you say you want to do certain things, the people who we are seeking to lead have a duty, an obligation, the right to look at the manifesto and the promises that you are making to them to see whether you can do it.
They'll judge you by your track record.
Judge you by your track record. And judge you even by the things that you say. And I listened to you when you were reading the CDD report. I've also read Professor Kwating's analysis of what will happen and the fact that we're in a manifesto period. My people in the Bong say, and I'm sure your people in Upper East will say that when a person promises you a hat, the best way of knowing whether he can deliver on the promise is to look at his head. If he's wearing one, that means that he has hat or a hat which he can give. It's also important for you to know that the 2024 manifesto of the MPP has been escalated. In 2020, it was 224 thereabouts.
Promises.
In 2024, they've escalated it. I can understand why. Because the promises of 2024 and the promises of 2016 got them into the Flagstaff House. So the promises have worked for them. So if they are escalating because there's a track record. Okay, and there's data to support that. Now, but what is Bawumia saying? First of all, it is important for you to know that according to the statistics of the Ghana Statistical Service, the unemployment situation now has 820,000 people. 820,000 people by the 2023 records of the Ghana Statistical Service are unemployed.
That is the number of people who have been pushed into, is it extreme poverty?
No. So what is that you're talking about hardcore unemployment. Those who, and that is the statistics he has used.
Okay.
And it's important for you to understand that for the first
You're
time,
talking about unemployment.
Unemployment.
Okay.
For the first time, Dr. Bawumia is playing tricks with the statistics, the data. The foundation for saying that he has created 2.3 million jobs is the institute, the World Labor Index report, which
World Development.
World Development Indices. It's not even the index. You say index, but it's not index. It's indices. In your manifesto, you say index. Now, and it's from the World Bank, and they are looking at people. That indices is looking at people who we call hardcore unemployment. There are people who have sat in the house for so long that they've looked for a job, they can't get the job, and they have been so disillusioned that they're not even looking for jobs anymore. That's the hardcore unemployment. And that's the data Bawumia is working with. Because if you go and look at the statistical service data, which is on Ghana, doesn't support what he's saying. In fact, if indeed within the period, and I can give you the statistics. Now, and just bear with me, you will see the statistics presently.
So presently we know we have a 14.7% rate of unemployment.
Yes. And if you have between 2,000, difference between 2,000 unemployment and 2023 unemployment is 820,000 people. Then you should talk about underemployment. You should be saying that MPP has created enough jobs that nobody in Ghana should actually be unemployed. But that's not so. It's not supported by the evidence. Now, what is the statistics? So, in 2017, the unemployment, the total national population was 29,430,000. Labor, the total population, national population. The working age population by the Ghana Statistical Service in 2000, which starts working age population, which starts from 15 plus. In 2000 was 17,250,257. The total employed in 2017 was 11,216. 11,216,724. And unemployed then was 10,200,000. 1,027,594. And I mean, what viewers will pardon me, the picture is not so clear. Inactive, those of the population who are not active at all by the statistical service was 5,013,938. The labor force, those employed, those active, and all those, there was 12,244,318. The labor force participation was 70.95%.
Okay, so can we come to the 2013 you were talking about so that you can make the point you want to make?
Let's do the 2023, not 2013. 2023.
I meant 2023.
2023. Our national current population is 34 million. 34 million. The working age, 15 and above, who are entitled to work, is 19,507,000. The employed. 12 million. Now, so first of all, just go back to 2017, that Baumia is a basis point. The total population was 29 million. Now it's 34 million. The total, the employed in 2017 was 11 million. That's immediately MPP came to office, the statistical service said 11 million were employed. Now, today, 2020, last year, 2023, they are still compiling the data. They have not come out with the validated the data yet. 2023 was 12 million. So even if you do the relativities, more people or less people are employed now, but in terms of the population, as a ratio of the population. Now, the difference, and we're looking at 2017 to 2023, is 820,690 people are unemployed.
The 2023 report by the Statistical Service said that the unemployed youth aged between 15 and 35 rose from about 1.2 million to over 1.3 million during that period.
Yes.
However, a bit of females got more jobs than males.
Yes, but even if you look, a bit of female got more jobs than male. But even if you look at the impact of the unemployment, female within that age bracket suffer more than men.
What's the point?
The point is that Bohemian statistics, the vice president's statistics, cannot be correct. Cannot be correct. And that is why I'm saying that because we're in a democracy, we're entitled to interrogate what he says. And I can tell you that by the statistics of the Ghana Statistical Service, the information can never be correct. And I challenge him, as an economist, to go back and look at the statistics generated.
What did he say?
He said that they have created 2.3 million jobs. And within the Fourth Republic, it is the MPP government within 2017 to 2023, and even today, that has created more jobs.
You didn't tell us at 2017 when they inherited the number of, is it 10 or almost 11 million?
Unemployment was 8%.
No, 11 million or so that you mentioned.
Yes.
You didn't tell us how many, what rate of that number was created between maybe your first term and your second term, so that we use that to measure if what he's saying is actually incorrect.
Well, I've not said that because I didn't come with that statistics. Okay.
Because I think to be able to say, to be able to fault him on what you think may be a superior record or fact, I think you need to be able to break it down. If he says this is what we have done over this period, can you then show us the period before, the period that took us to the number you mentioned they inherited, what was the addition?
Well, Samson, you are perfectly right, and it's a legitimate question. But I didn't come here to do a comparison between MPP and NDC. I came here to interrogate what Bawumia is telling us. Okay? And to say that I should even compare the MPP figures as presented to us by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia with the NDC is to suggest that we validate what he's telling us. It's only when you validate what he's telling us that you can compare with existing records. I'm challenging the veracity of his claims and the correctness of the data. Okay. So I cannot even compare.
So you have spoken about unemployment. What I can tell you is that
unemployment in 2016, when we were leaving office, was 8%. Today it's not 8%. Today it's 14%. I can tell you that. And that again is from the statistical service. Okay? But after we've launched our manifesto today, if you want to do a comparison.
So today it's 14.7. That's not the same as 14%.
14.7. So it's close to 15. Close to 15. And even looking at the percentages alone, you will see that clearly unemployment was lower in 2016 than 2023.
I understand you, but my inquiry was to help us in a certain way, because he says for every sector, if they make the comparison, they have a superior record.
Again, it's wrong.
So I just wanted
what was inflation?
To know if it was unemployment rate was 8 at your time.
Yes.
I was interested in knowing what was it before you took over. What did you add in the employment mix?
You don't need to be in a hurry. This conversation will continue. And after we've launched our manifesto, we set the basis, the platform.
And this is going to happen this afternoon?
This afternoon. So you don't need to be in a rush.
And Bawumia is going to take questions like John Mahama did Sunday. So maybe we'll ask him this question when we go there.
Well, yes. So for now, it's not even Bawumia. For me sitting here is my party launching its manifesto. For me sitting here, Samson, and accepting your invitation is to do a critical analysis of what Bawumia has said and what MPP said in their manifesto. And I can tell you as a matter of fact that the statistics do not support them. You can't say that you have performed so well when your deficit has gone through the roof.
So, like
you
the
can't
CDD,
say you have performed well when your inflation hit 54%.
Like the CDD invites us to do for those who are making manifestos. He says the things to be addressed should include, inescapably, high and persistent youth unemployment, increasing poverty. These are matters of employment.
Yes.
So he told you how he intends to address that.
Yes.
So I think that should be the focus, right?
Yes. And what are the solutions? What are the solutions? What solution did he offer on solving that? And you remember? I don't remember any. I see mere rhetoric.
Your manifesto has not been launched yet. If I ask you what you are going to do about unemployment, you would tell me a number of the things that John Mahama has been saying around. So is it that you are deliberately, deciding to ignore Bawumia's approach to resolving unemployment?
I don't see the approach. I see rhetoric. And I will not even take the offer of talking about our manifesto here because it's yet to be launched. So I decline that. Now, what I'm saying is that read their manifesto, and I'm happy and thankful to Joy FM for sending me their manifesto. What is a mere repetition of rhetoric. And I can understand Bawumia because he did it before. He told you that he was going to move this country from taxation to production. He told you that there was no reason why Ghana roads should not be paved with concrete. And there was no reason why. He said that the Kayaye ought not to be living at Agbogboloshi. That he was going to move them and build for them. He told you that. Now, he told you many things. Again, he told us that this government, the MPP government, was developing the largest hydroelectric dam and irrigation dam in the north. What we have come to realize is that money has been sunk in the dam with no results. So there are many things that he said. I mean, if we want to go to those things that he said, clearly, Baumia cannot come out nice. But what I'm saying is that the 320 promises contained in their manifesto, some of them is a little hashed up promises that were contained in the NDC manifesto of 2020. Yeah, I can tell you, as a matter of fact. They were, I mean, providing scholarships for PWDs. It was contained in the NDC manifesto of 2020. Unless you didn't know about it. And so, I mean, and some of them too have been plagiarized from the documents made available to them by our manifesto. When we said we were going to establish a women's bank because there should be inclusiveness in the gender inclusiveness in the economic development of this country, and the best way to do that is to establish a financial institution that will care for and provide resources for women to also be inclusive part.
So even though
they say they are going to establish a fund.
So even though there is an entire chapter that is dedicated to jobs and opportunities for the youth, you will find that for every subsector he talks about, it is interlaced with job opportunities to be created. If it is manufacturing, there is opportunity for jobs, new and emerging jobs that he talks about. So I can't believe that you are reading and you didn't skip chapter 4. Even if you did, you would see that he's talking about jobs throughout. And chapter 4 is titled Jobs and Opportunities for the Youth. You don't believe that?
I'm saying that.
He says, for example,
yes,
over the past 8 years under the Akufo-Addo-led administration, notwithstanding the unexpected global economic crisis, we have created 2.3 million jobs.
That is wrong.
This is page 52. Page 52.
Yes, I'm going.
We have created 2.3 million jobs and implemented programs and policies that support our youth and small businesses, including having disbursed a total of 1.44 billion to support 44367 youth-owned small-scale businesses through Ghana Enterprise Authority, over 250,000 young entrepreneurs have been given entrepreneurial training, and 15,000 small businesses funded through the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation. He gives you this background and now comes to tell you that he says, but this is not enough. We have to do more. And he begins to roll out the things they will do. Incentivize the creation of jobs by the private sector, complemented by public sector jobs in, for example, health, education, and security services. He's talking about train 1 million
people in data.
1 million youth in digital skills, create jobs through private sector construction and infrastructure development, industrialization and agribusiness, create jobs through tax amnesty program, create jobs for artisans, carpenters, masons, welders, etc., built environment professionals to maintain public infrastructure through a revived and resource PWD, create SME jobs with the introduction of the SME Bank. Remember that. And he talks about a whole lot, national cybersecurity, workshop development program, and a lot. You say you haven't seen this.
I've seen this. I've seen them all. Tell me how they create the jobs. What all the lists that you have, tell me how they create the jobs. Just tell me. You've read them well, comprehensively.
They supported small SMEs. They use the youth entrepreneurial.
What is the statistics? What is the evidence? Which people did he support? Do you have the evidence?
If you don't have the contrary evidence, what are you talking about? That they are
If
lying?
you don't have the contrary evidence, you still have the right to challenge the evidence. And I say, produce the evidence. The fact that I don't have the contrary evidence and they have not made it available to Ghanaians doesn't mean that I can challenge the evidence. Because I see many people now are on the streets selling dog chains than before. I see that evidence. I see many people standing at the traffic lights trying to wipe the glass of your car in order to survive than before. I see many stores closing down. I see many businesses leaving Ghana. So tell me, which people did they provide the resources for? Because those resources were public resources. And those resources were intended and meant to create jobs. And by the fact that they were using public resources, they have a duty to make the impact, the socio-economic impact of that policy available to us, the evidence supporting what they have done. That's why I say it's mere rhetoric.
You have not looked for it.
Oh, hey, you spend my. That's what you remember RTI, the arguments that are made there. If you are using, and that's why it found itself into the law.
We filed the RTI.
You are using public resources to generate information, and you are saying that I should come look for the information. I should, in the RTI, the initial concern was I should pay for the information.
At each time when these loans or incentives were being given to the small-scale businesses, there was news, and we got to know them.
Oh, they were given to small-scale business, and I also know that when they made it, they publicized it, and I also know that when the COVID funds came and they said they were going to, I know most of the money went to the activists. In fact, and also I know particularly in the South Narco constituency, the 2020 candidate complained that when the money came, she didn't benefit from it. She gave it to the executives.
The parliamentary candidate.
The candidate. Felicia Tete.
All right.
Yeah. So I know that from the grapevine, they gave money. But I asked, because they were public resources, Samson, aren't we entitled to know who benefited from those resources? Who were the people they gave the resources?
So you choose to isolate the issue of job creation and jobs for their manifesto to discuss. So thank you. Let me come
Samson,
to.
I've not isolated, actually.
Yeah.
This is because he mentioned, that's the clip you played. That he said he created.
So that's the portion you paid attention to. We played him say a host of things about this manifesto.
That's a palpable and demonstrable lie.
But I don't think it's fair to the politics to just say everything he said was a lie.
No, I'm saying that 2.3, is a palpable, demonstrable lie.
You may say it's inaccurate. You may say it's inaccurate, or that it's been boasted in a way that it ought not be. It is less. But to say it's a lie that they have created jobs.
I heard you introducing quarantine that he says it as it is. I heard you. And I think that was a compliment.
No, if you had given me the so Kofi.
Yes, sir.
I know that like a good number of Ghanaians, you are just tired of the duopoly, and that's why you have put yourself in the middle. What do you say?
All right. So
380 separate promises, and Bawumia is saying earlier, we made you some promises, and those promises, check us by each record. We have done a good job. We made 223 promises in the 2020 election campaign. We have delivered massively. So trust us on the 380.
all right. So a good morning to you, Samson. It's been a little while since we met, and to my esteemed co-panelists, a very good morning to you, and to the entire Ghana, a very good morning to everyone listening. Samson, we are in a crisis. 740 billion cedis of debt. We have no industry. I know the Ghana Statistical Service gave us a little pat on the back that we had a trade surplus of about 5.3 billion 2023, but it's a deceptive trade surplus, and I'll explain to you why that is deceptive. We don't have any industry. We have 7,317,555 families, which represent 24.3% of all household population in multi-dimensional poverty. Out of that amount, 43.5% is in not only multidimensionally poor, but they are in extreme poverty happening to them simultaneously. That means not having housing, jobs, healthcare, employment. They also cannot get water. They cannot get good food. On top of that, in Ghana, when we are the number 1 in gold revenues in Africa and number 6 in the world. Mind-blowing. Last year, we did 2.3 billion cedis of intos from Burkina and Guinea from Niger.
Importation.
Yeah, importation. 2.3 billion. When we have, everywhere you go, green. The sun is abundant. Rains fall to the extent that it not only destroys the little that we've been able to put together as citizens, but water everywhere. We still buy. Now, mind you, Burkina and Niger don't have planting for foods. They don't have one district, one family, one.
Factory.
No, they don't. They don't have 1 million, one constituency. But we go to them to import food, tomatoes, and onions.
But you will be asked, imagine what the situation will be without the planting for food and jobs.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't be, because we have more abundance than them. So it doesn't make any kind of sense. We go to Denmark to import guinea fowls. The last time I heard they flew away to the other side of the border. Now we go to Denmark. It's ridiculous what is going on in Ghana.
In a factual sense, guinea fowls can't fly that far. But it was an expression to show that what we could have done, we didn't do.
Well, I tell you right now, we spent billions of cedis importing them from Denmark, and that's a problem. And you know why? Because we have a deficit in corn, feed. We don't even have our own poultry. So to have
the poultry industry, sincerely, as we know the facts, has been dying.
Why?
And those in charge of that industry tell us that the poultry we import, the poultry we consume, we are not responsible for even 2% of it.
Okay.
Not 2% of it, according to the president of the association.
Okay, so that should be worrying, correct?
Very worrying.
Okay, so now you have Master Bahumia show up and say, oh, we got jobs. Really? What kind of jobs? Because close to 30% of the population lives under 5 cedis a day. Where's the jobs? I don't see any jobs. And when he says jobs, Ghanaians are not looking for jobs. Ghanaians are looking for a lifestyle. What is a lifestyle? To be able to have a place to lay my head, to have good food, nutritional value to eat.
There's a job that gives you that.
But that's what I'm saying, that every job should be able to give you that. If it doesn't give you that, it's not a job. It doesn't even sustain you. Listen, I know people who sleep on their jobs from Monday through Friday, and on Friday they go home to see their family because they can afford transportation. Jobs should give you a lifestyle. These jobs these guys are talking about, the Zoom Lion type of jobs, these are 150 cedis a month, 180 cedis a month, and they're in arrears 6 months. They're not paying. That's not a job. That's not a job, Samson.
You're looking at the extreme situations, are you not?
They are citizens. Extreme to what extent?
Is the glass half full or half empty? That's the question.
Well, let me tell you what, listen. The Ghana Statistical Service is telling us 7,317,555 families are in multi-dimensional distress. Yeah. That's not my number. Where's Bamia getting his numbers from? Oh, are you going to challenge that? I didn't make that up. I just read it.
I know about it.
Okay, so then what are you saying? This is pure fact. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Where did he get the numbers from? Listen, if you took a picture of that and you mirrored it over 2020, you wouldn't see any difference.
Really?
Oh, come on. Samson, listen. Now, for the first time here, I have 3 lawyers. Lawyers, I know, no pun intended. But all the lawyers do is process. Let's talk process. Oh, this and I talk life. Because the bottom line is life. Do you realize that he never addressed a single statement about our debt situation? 740 billion cedis. How are we going to pay that? He didn't talk about that. He didn't talk about agriculture. Why we need to put billions of dollars into agriculture. He didn't talk about that. How's he going to be able to do everything else that he talked about? Where's the money come from? Go back to Bretton Woods? We're going to be visiting with Bretton Woods again, I guess, because they don't have a plan, definitely, for money. How are we getting the income?
Should he just talk about debt, or you are interested in what he's going to do, or the party is going to do, to turn the situation around? That's what he spoke about. And the CDD, shows us the way, that the manifestos must respond to unprecedented socio-economic challenges, including worst economic crisis since the 1980s, national indebtedness.
Okay, so now the 2 major factors that affect this situation you just talked about is number 1, debt, and number 2, income. You can't do anything from where we are with without these 2 things. Addressing our debt issue and finding out where the income is coming in, because then this becomes something that we keep going to. And the cycle has repeated since the creation of bread. How are we going to fix this problem? Listen, let me tell you, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And you know he doesn't know what he's talking about, because listen, yesterday I was in Circle and I was in tears. I lost it. Sorry, but I did. You know why? Because there were children sleeping on the sidewalks. You couldn't wake them up. And I asked the mother what was wrong. And they said they were tired because they have to wake up in the morning and walk to Akwege and come back begging for food to eat. And people so by the time they make the trip to Akwege and back to Circle, they're exhausted. These are 5-6-year-olds. We are the number 1 in gold. Our gold alone could build Dubai in Accra. Are we adding value, Samson? He didn't talk about adding value. What do? Everything we create, 80% of our exports in the cocoa, oil, and gold. What do we do with it? We give it away for pennies. We don't add value. Why is no one talking about how we're going to be able to create and add value here in Ghana, so we could stop being dependent on an outside source that controls us? Why can't that be the conversation? This manifesto is garbage.
At paragraph 18,
Go ahead.
He speaks about sustaining and expanding Ghana's
Nonsense.
rebounding economy.
Nonsense.
And he says that they will further accelerate the growth and expansion of the economy over the next 4 years. We increase the size of the economy by US 20 billion since 2016, from US 56 billion to US 76 billion by end of December 2023. They intend to achieve and sustain an average 6% growth by expanding agriculture, mining, including establishing Minerals Development Bank, 1D, 1F, emerging industries, digital hub, and services, sports, tourism, and creative arts. They're going to increase public-private partnerships, establish an independent fiscal responsibility council. You're talking about the debt. This is part of that. Amend the Fiscal Responsibility Act to add a new fiscal rule that requires that expenditure in any year does not exceed 105% of the previous year's revenue.
Let me tell you, Samson, Chat GPT can do better than that.
GTP.
Yeah, AI can do better than that. It can. And it sounds like he probably put it in the artificial general intelligence program to spit that out.
This is not fair.
Oh, it's fair because, okay, so now it's not fair. So now let's go to results. Because none of this seems to be driven by results. It's all talk. Have you walked around, forget the rest of the country, have you walked around Accra lately? Just take a walk. I know you love your lifestyle and you know you're living good, Samson, but go to Nima, go to Ashaman, go what circle? Don't go far, circle, right? Adabraka, just you could, don't get in your car, just walk down circle. I'll take a walk with you. So you could go to the places I go, by the Odona, the Cecilia Dapa Foundation, that place. Go and look there and see the children there and look at how the infrastructure has been very poorly done and how people are living. And then compare it to these numbers. And these are two totally different worlds.
Tell me what you see positive about the manifesto
I don't.
380 promises.
Talk.
Of what they call bold solutions. And some of them are indeed bold.
Really?
Scrapping e-levy. Scrapping betting tax.
Samson, sometimes, listen, you create something, hey, I put the water in this bottle, I'm going to get this water out of this bottle. Wow, that's
bold
great.
Solution.
Bold solution. See? What's bold? You created a mess.
You put the water there in the first place.
You created a mess, Samson. What's there that's bold about this thing? Samson.
We had over 100 and a dozen, or more than 100 and a dozen ministers, like 126 or 5.
Okay.
And then the president
127 on the first term.
Okay.
127.
And then the president came under pressure. He ignored initially, subsequently reduced to 85.
Now stop right there. Stop right there.
Baumia says, I'll do 50.
Okay. So now, if a president starts at 127 and under pressure he's able to bring it to 85, what that tells you is he could have started with 85 to begin with. If this man here is saying he's going to take it from 85 to 50, they could have done this whole 8 years with 50.
In Kenya, they brought pressure to, what's his name again?
Raila. No, Raila. Professor what?
Ruto. Yes.
Ruto, yeah.
They brought pressure on him. He collapsed the entire cabinet. Now, reality is biting back. They need to do the things that they were doing because the people were asking for it.
Because they were incompetent.
He's saying, I'll give you 50 ministers.
Incompetence.
Mahama says, I'll give you 60.
I'm going to give you 10. 10 ministers, 10 ministries.
The Constitution's framing will give you at least 19, not 10.
No. That's a cabinet.
Yes.
That's a cabinet. So you bring in, no. That's 19 maximum.
Yeah.
It doesn't say you have to have 19.
Yeah.
It says 19. Come on, man. Samson, you a master of Constitution. Don't let me come here and talk about Constitution.
Yeah.
You're not reading your book? Come on.
I asked the questions. Let me ask them.
Okay. So Samson, let me tell you this. There is a very specific way of building a nation. Very specific. Now, nation building requires some, first of all, you need a leadership of excellence. You have to have the humility to put together a mastermind. A mastermind that does what? A mastermind that creates a masterpiece. And out of the masterpiece, you create the master key. The purpose of the master key is to develop a system. A system's job is to create structures that gives birth to standards. The standards are going to be the models of success that you have in your leadership. So now, if you have a leadership of excellence, it will promote excellence, it promotes talent, it promotes competence.
Okay.
Now, I want to really finish this. And then if you have a leadership of excellence, it punishes corruption and substandardness. And then you put together a functional government system that holds this whole place like a mechanism of homeostasis that keeps it in balance. That's what we need to have. Have you ever heard these people talk about what I'm talking about to you now? Now, let me tell you this. A developmental plan, a national, and I don't even understand why he has a manifesto, because Ghana needs a national development plan. So
he commits to that. He commits to the ideal of a national development plan that is, as it were, compulsory for all, mandatory for all political parties to feed their, programs into it, so that we don't have the situation where NDC says, I'm doing
good enough
Saglime. The MPP come, they completely abandon it. Then we're getting to elections, they are quickly running around to do it again. Then they are building new ones. The MPP started, Kufuor's regime started to do some affordable housing. The NDC comes into office, they abandon it, they are going to the STS.
Thank you very much.
Then we end up where? Nothing.
Well, but this is my point. So it's not just talking about let's have a national development plan. It's about crafting a national development plan and entrenching it in a constitution so that the MPP or NDC, they cannot come and change things. But this is exactly what they say. Mahama comes and says, oh, we're going to start a national development plan. We're going to go back to it. Well, the last time you had a chance, you didn't entrench it in the constitution. That's why the MPP came and changed things. And the losses that are coming from not having a national development plan is borne by the people of Ghana. And this merry-go-round keeps
You're
happening.
right about that. Now, let me go to Dr. Osai Kopon. Thank you very much for joining us, Prof.
Yes, my pleasure, Samson. Good morning.
Great. So tell us, what does the Afrobarometer say now? And you have given us what should be the blueprint, as in the CDD. You say that unlike previous election cycles in Ghana's Fourth Republic, this year's manifestos must respond to 1, unprecedented governance, socio-economic and security challenges. These challenges include the worst economic crisis since the 1980s, national indebtedness, rampant government corruption, widening inequality, high and persistent youth unemployment, increasing poverty, weak institutions for accountability and local administration, a looming health and environmental crisis exemplified by galamsey, i.e. illegal mining, ravaged forest and water bodies, and internal chieftaincy, and so on and so on. You say your assessment is that this is a result of persistent misgovernance. So looking at the manifesto you have seen, it does appear it addresses your concerns, does it not?
Thank you again, Samson. Good morning to your panelists in the studio. It still falls short. If you follow even the campaigns outside of these manifestos, if you follow the campaigns, there's a lot of emphasis on the economic issues, the economic challenges, job creation, and that's important, especially if you think about all of the challenges that we have faced over the last couple of years. I can see why trying to fully restore the economy and getting it back on track would engage the energies of the two political parties. Again, and if I should go back to Afrobarometer, I can see why jobs become very important. If you look at Afrobarometer over 9 rounds, unemployment and job creation has always emerged 5 times out of the 9 times as the number one most important problem for Ghanaians. So I do understand the emphasis on that. But I think if you also look at a lot of the good governance and democracy indices over the last couple of years again, for me, and as the CDD is saying, you cannot also not make governance issues a core or a key center part of this year's election, right? So everything that Afrobarometer has captured, the democracy index, the VDEM Institute, freedom in the world, you name it all. There's a point of convergence that says there are some real challenges with our democratic architecture and with our governance architecture. And for me, that is what I'm still yet to see the really quote unquote bold solutions that says, here's how you tackle some of those key governance issues. Samson, let me give you a couple of examples. So for example, if you look at just Ghana, and if you look at 9 rounds of Afrobarometer, 6 key challenges as I identified last year comes up. Weak, growing perception of corruption in institutions, low levels of trust in institutions, a growing perception that people in office get away when they commit crimes versus ordinary people, a growing feeling that our elected representatives do not listen, growing dissatisfaction with democracy, right? The Democracy Project had a meeting at CDD earlier on this year with representatives of the political parties. And one of the things we encouraged them to do was to come up with a democracy pledge and make it as part of their manifestos, in which some of the challenges that we identify, that they pledge specific ways that they would address it.
Exactly.
Yes. I mean, yes, I'll give credit to the NPP manifesto. So, for example, one of the things that caught my attention was this idea that they would pass a Corrupt Practices Act, where they're pooling all the different institutions, rules, regulations that is designed to address corruption into one.
I have heard the best of lawyers whose law can sink a ship. Is Nkrumah says we have all the good laws in this country. And as far as corruption is concerned, once again, we have some of the best laws. But where are we? You are complaining about unprecedented widening corruption.
Right. And so my point is, in recognition of that, I'm pointing that out to say maybe there's still that one thing that, I mean, the idea caught my attention because, sometimes you get into this, well, it's outside of my jurisdiction. Well, this issue should go to that agency, or this other person is more suited to address this issue of corruption that has emerged. So who knows? Maybe when you pull it all together, the clarity that it brings, the certainty in terms of the points of where you fight corruption, may help. So that's one. There's the issue of going back to this election of MMDCs in responding to the governance issue. So there are some of these governance proposals to address some of these challenges.
Prof, when you look at the movement for change, Alan Chamantin's group,
yes.
Now the umbrella group is the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. they take the district assemblies issue head on. And I know you know my interest in that area. The CDD survey and Ghanaians generally said, we don't want it the way Akufo-Addo wanted it. Make it partisan. We should use what other countries have done, which is also lasting, non-partisan. The CDD survey confirms that Ghanaians want it non-partisan. The Alan Group say, we will do it the way Ghanaians say they want it. President Akufo-Addo stopped the referendum to avoid Ghanaians voting to say we don't want it to be partisan. Why is it that Bawumia cannot say that categorically in this manifesto, but he's talking about doing consultations? Which consultations again?
I'm not inside Dr. Bawumia's head. Perhaps he's yet to sort of figure out all of the specific details in how he wants to approach the reform of the local governance system. So maybe he's not yet at the position, and this is just my speculation, maybe he's just not at the position where he wants to categorically say this approach is better than this approach, or this is my preferred approach in how we go about with reforming the local governance.
No, I'm talking about the people, what the people say they want. On this issue, does it sound like buy one Bawumia, get another Akufo-Addo free?
No, but you're right. I mean, the research is clear. The people have made it very clear what their preference is. Now, as to why he still wants further, consultation with all of the stakeholders, perhaps is to convince them otherwise that this other approach may work.
Does that not also say there's no clear commitment and intention to prosecute that agenda?
I don't think so. The commitment is there. For it to have made its way into the manifesto, for me, is a promise that says, I want to do this. Now, as to how specifically I want to do it, time will tell. But okay. I don't think it undermines his commitment to wanting to see some kind of local government reform.
Okay, so let me ask you this question now. What some people may be asking or may have asked, and our job here is to mirror what the public is thinking. Is it fair? This is a manifesto of the NPP, correct?
Yes.
The NPP is the government now.
Yes.
You have introduced e-levy. Mm-hmm. Ghanaians fought against it. And through the minority, you keep blaming the minority for fighting against e-levy. Then now you are saying, I will scrap e-levy. You brought upon us unprecedented, historic 126 or 7 ministers. Then you have reduced to 85. You say, when I come, I'll give you 50 ministers. You are currently implementing betting tax. Your opponent says, I will scrap it. You come to tell me, I will scrap it. President Akufo-Addo says, vote for Bawumia because he has a better vision. The NPP say, support Bawumia because he has a better vision. Why are they not implementing what they want to be implemented only when Bawumia is voted into office, if?
Right, but Samson, in all fairness too, I'm sure if we look at the NPP's time in government in this Fourth Republic, right, there are some things that were core to former President Kufuor's government that President Akufo-Addo has done differently. Yes, maybe some of the core principles and ideas would have been the same, but he's also pursued different policies, although it's coming from the same party. Yes, Dr. Bawumia is the vice president, and he's part of a government that implemented the e-levy, for example, right? But that was done under the Akufo-Addo administration. Now he says, Bawumia under a Bawumia presidency and another NPP government, I have a different approach. I want to rethink the e-levy. I want to approach it differently.
Doc, this manifesto,
so again,
Doc, this manifesto is not Baumia's manifesto. It's the NPP's manifesto. The NPP,
but
the NPP have generated this manifesto. The sitting president endorses it and says the things there are good. They are bold solutions. They are superior to what John Mahama is offering. Why is he not implementing them? That's the question.
But Samson, you also two key things. One, it's the MPP's manifesto that will be implemented under a Bawumia presidency.
That's correct.
So I don't necessarily expect that all of the things under an Akufo-Addo presidency would repeat itself under a Bawumia presidency. If he sees some of those things differently, if he thinks about some of those things differently, e-levy being an example. Yes, I know the vice president has been in a difficult position in terms of not having said much about the e-levy during the introduction, implementation, and all of that. That's one. Two, he's the vice president. Yes, I know that that the narrative has come up that well, you are now vice president. You are part of the government. Why don't you do all of these things? I mean, realistically, it's not his administration. Yes, he has a voice. Yes, he can give an input, but it is not his presidency. And so even if he wants some things done, ultimately...
Why? Doc, Akufo-Addo doesn't want these bold solutions. He doesn't want the best of things.
Of course, he wants the best of things.
So he should do them. That's the question people are asking. He should just do them. Reducing the cost of data, bringing down the cost of living crisis. He should just do them. That's all they are saying.
Yes, it is Akufo-Addo's presidency, right? Ultimately, he's the president. He sets the priorities. Bawumia is saying these are good ideas. The party is saying these are good ideas. But these are good ideas that I will be able to implement under a Bawumia presidency. I mean, yes, he has 4 months, as vice president. My point is that an Akufo-Addo presidency has a different set of policy priorities than a Bawumia presidency would have. Yes, I'm sure that there will be some policy continuity, like free SHS, but he also wants to implement some of his own ideas. And I understand the politics of that narrative that do it now because you're vice president, but it really doesn't work that way. Okay. I mean, think about the US. Kamala Harris is promising a number of things she will do as president. And there can also be that temptation of, well, you are the VP now, why don't you do them? But the reality is that it doesn't necessarily work that way. I mean, this government may believe that you need the e-levy, but Bawumia believes you don't. So how then do you get him to scrap the e-levy now?
Thank you, Doc. Let me bring in the NPP representative on the show now. In the US, I haven't heard, and I've followed. I love the democratic,
dispensation.
How the democratic, the party, how they are doing their things, and I follow a lot of what they are doing. In fact, the DNC they just finished. I followed that of the Republican as well. What I don't see is a policy that Biden is pursuing, that Kamala Harris is promising to do anything different about it.
You're right.
I don't see any legislation that has been brought in that she is saying when she comes, she will repeal or overturn it. Unlike Trump, who is very blunt about some of these things. So the comparisons may not be exactly correct. How do you answer to that question? That you took that platform and said Bawumia and the manifesto holds the best for Ghana. Akufo-Addo did the same. Almost all of you did the same. You are in government. People are complaining. They don't want the e-levy. If Bawumia can do it by the stroke of the pen, and you are endorsing it as a party, and you are asking to be voted for, why not do it now? Betting tax, all of them. If you want to remove it, why not?
Well, let me say good morning to your good self and my co-panelists, and obviously to our cherished viewers and listeners. Samson, it's surprising that we discount the fact that those fiscal policies that Bawumia is saying when he comes into government he's going to remove. It's a basis of an approval that is being operated today. So your tax envelope that Parliament has approved, the revenue sources that Parliament has approved, which is running your budget for 2024, includes all those revenue measures. So if Bawumia is in a position, or if the Akufo-Addo government is in a position to do something about it now, what it means is that you have to look for alternative revenue sources to plug that hole. Okay. But see, Mr. Mahama in government in 2016, he had a manifesto for 2017-2020. Did the question ever arise why he did not implement all the things that he was dreaming of doing between 2017 in the event that Ghanaians had given the mandate?
He certainly did. And if it's coming up in a pronounced form, there's a basis that the electorate wants.
I don't have a difficulty. You and I know what the provision Article 74 says, okay, where the executive presidency and the executive authority in Ghana is vested in one individual. Okay.
58.
Yeah, whatever.
58 one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. 58. Thanks for the correction. Invested in one individual. Of course, the vice president assists the president in, and of course, cabinet. And my good friend here has been in government before. He knows how cabinet operates. When people debate, articulate their views, a decision ultimately is taken. And whether you like it or not, that's the position of government. We're in this country when
you're not telling me.
I'm coming.
You're not telling me we are running an autocracy.
That's not
where the president at cabinet
I said a decision
commands everything else.
I said when a decision is taken. I didn't say the president decides.
Okay.
So when a decision is taken, we lived here in this country when the finance minister under the Akufo-Addo administration first time openly expressed a view that was contrary to what government position was on the implementation of the free SHS. So how is it the case that when the vice president indicates that when given the opportunity, he's not going to implement or continue a certain tax handle that is being implemented today, we have issues?
The party is endorsing, the difference is here. The party is endorsing this.
No problem.
The president sitting is also endorsing this.
Of course, I'm saying
and telling the voters that this are superior views to
my point
what Mahama is promising and any other candidate.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is formulating his fiscal and economic policy. He will factor in the discontinuation of the e-levy and look for alternative sources that then enables him to roll out his programs without the benefit of the e-levy. So really, I fail to see how this even becomes something that we spend time discussing. The point is this. Dr. Bawumia has outlined...
Are you suggesting this is an illogic, that the people who are asking these questions are not thinking?
I haven't said so. But my view is that to the extent that Article 58, is clear, any executive president has a vision that he is articulating. Dr. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo articulated his vision.
The executive president is sponsored by a party.
I don't have a...
The executive president hardly does things that are not supported by the party.
These are notorious facts that I don't think we have to...
Okay, please go on. Yes, go on.
I'm saying that regardless of the party sponsoring, it's still an individual whose name and face we vote for. He is vested with authority by our constitution. And he takes the decision. The buck stops with him.
Let me put you on the spot.
Yes, sure.
What 1, 2, 3 things can you tell me the party wanted to be done that Akufo-Addo, vetoed, or things that the Akufo-Addo wanted to be done that the party has been against?
I don't think that is material. I'm saying that everything that the MPP government is doing today, I support 100%.
Okay.
And of course, there were bases why government rolled out the policies that it rolled out, including the e-levy. What was the basis? We had just come out of a pandemic. Government finances were challenged. Government said, look, I don't want to go back to IMF. I want to implement policies internally to raise revenue, cut expenditure. Outlined expenditure cutting measures in the budget and new revenue measures that he intended to roll out. Obviously, because going to the IMF was going to prescribe those same solutions or prescriptions that we all knew: cut expenditure, raise revenue. Then we go to Parliament. Okay, then Parliament approves the budget, which is the revenue and the expenditure component, proceeds to approve the appropriations, and says, I'm not going to allow you to roll out the revenue measures that I have approved already in the budget. Obviously, the consequences were there for all of us to see. Between January and March of 2023, we saw how the city took a hit. Okay, our general economic environment suffered. And so, until the e-levy was rolled out in, I believe, end of March and subsequently implemented in May, a lot of harm had already been done. But I'm saying that those were measures that Akufo-Addo government rolled out to deal with a particular situation. Thankfully, our economy is rebounding. Dr. Bawumia says that when I get the opportunity to govern, these tax measures, I will not factor them in my revenue stream going forward. I'm going to implement a comprehensive tax policy, make a certain tax regime which is flat across, make it more realistic and practical for people to comply, cut certain component of our what you call it, infrastructure, and let the private sector handle it, create space within our fiscal regime to ensure that we are able to provide the services that are critical for the good people of this country.
Okay, so that question
and so that realignment.
Can you look at other issues as your colleagues on the platform have raised concerns about, and what you want to project?
I listed quite a number.
Okay.
My senior colleague, I realized you went to Addis Ababa reading your profile sitting here.
Okay.
Yes, I'm a Santa too.
Nice.
And it's important that we temper the language, okay, that we use in. You may disagree with a certain policy proposition, but it doesn't, under any circumstances, make it useless. Okay, we can agree to disagree, and in all honesty, I don't think that you've taken time to read the NPP manifesto, because if you did, you wouldn't be making.
I have.
Yeah, but of course, you say that there was no mention of agric. Meanwhile, in chapter 10, agric and the policies on crops, poultry, agro-processing is all outlined there. You say he never mentioned the debt. Meanwhile, on page 6 of the manifesto, the vice president mentions the debt profile and all of that. You say he never mentions value addition. On page 181, he talks of value addition. They are all clear in black and white in the manifesto. You say the jobs that he mentioned are Zoom Lion jobs, as if to say those are not jobs. Yeah, they may not be the kind of jobs that we all will wish our children to have. And so the government is rolling out policy that ensures that people are able to go to school and all that. But I have the job numbers here. The 2.3 million jobs that you discredit, it's here. Okay, Ministry of Interior, Ghana Police Service, Prison Service, Fire Service, Immigration Service. 2017, 3,500. 2018, 3,500. 2019, 0. 2020, 3,549. 2021, 2,057. 2022, 3,200. Totaling 15,814. You go to Ministry of Works and Housing, regional integration.
How does the
10,000?
Keep your question.
And 31. Forestry Commission 102,000. Regional reorganization 1,728. Ghana Airport Company GCAA 1,356. Regional Maritime Organization under Ministry of Transport. So these are broken down into sectors, okay, and private sector, okay.
So if you take the first segment of the sectors that are government, immigration, police, almost every year they are recruiting.
Yes.
So what jobs have you created?
But they are jobs because remember,
you don't take credit for them.
Hold on. Between 2012 and 2016, there was a freeze under the Mr. Mahama administration.
It was not going to be a perpetual freeze.
But there was. Was there
because of a program? So yeah.
Because of a program, of course, you can argue that way. But the truth of the matter is that these jobs have actually been created over the period.
No.
Plus,
the jobs were existent. You just fill them. You don't create them.
You're filling vacancies.
You're filling vacancies.
Or adding because there were
no vacancies in 2012.
You didn't create them.
There were no vacancies. There were no vacancies in 2012,
You didn't create them.
2013, 14, and 15 and 16. There were no vacancies.
And Samson, the bigger point is you are feeding off a liability. You're not bringing in new income into the system.
So hold it. Yes, please go on. You are going actually to private sector.
I wanted to hear that one.
It's 975,164. And if you look at the data in 2017, it was 171,079 new jobs.
Right. Now help your viewers to understand something.
Yeah.
Help your viewers to understand something. I'm asking so that you will help. Because of the first question I asked about which they have just tried to categorize as just filling vacancies. What's government's role in the employment in the private sector?
Excellent.
Of course, it's the environment that you create, okay? And so the policy that you rolled out in one district, one factory will create jobs.
Correct.
The policy that you create in the vehicle assembly space will create jobs, okay? And all the other things that government does that stimulates employment in the entrepreneurial skills training and the incentives that you provide, they are all things that create jobs.
That's right.
But there's a clear admission on the part of Dr. Bawumia that these notwithstanding, there's still a huge gap.
He said, but this is not enough.
Absolutely. It's not enough.
We must do more.
Precisely. And he outlines his vision of the things that he intends to do to create more jobs. We can critique it. I don't have a problem. Okay? But you cannot wipe it off with a stroke of a hand as if to say, no thinking has gone into the document. Okay? I'm saying that if you look at the manifesto that was launched last week, it addresses issues all the way from cradle to grave. Okay? From child mortality issues, from, the opportunities that the government is creating in education to ensure that we build some human capacity that will deal with our 21st century issues, all the way through to employment creation, care for the aged, if you permit me, how we're going to sustain and expand our economy, which is rebounding. Samson, there's no denying that we have had a very challenging economic situation in the period between 2020 and 2024. These are matters of fact, okay? What accounted for it, government has outlined them. Of course, people disagree, which is okay, because like my good friend in News said, in a democracy, people will disagree with you.
In fact, the manner he went about part of his critique, I felt that was problematic, because if they launch their manifesto this afternoon and we have to use the same argument on their manifesto, he will not be happy about it. That these are things that you've just written their words.
And he makes the point that they are empty rhetoric. But you see, thankfully, we have an institution in this country that takes the pain of assessing manifestos. Imani. They call it a manifesto.
That's right.
And you can look at the track record of both parties. Truth. No government has been able to achieve all the commitments that they made at every election cycle. Because several factors will come into determining whether you are able to deliver on all your commitments or not. So, for example, when Akufo-Addo came into government in 2016, we knew there was a challenge in the banking sector. But did we know the extent? Because there's been an attempt to resolve it through the liquidity support that Mr. Mahama had provided through the Bank of Ghana to banks. It turned out that what they did to those resources, we all subsequently saw in the Boulders report. We knew there was energy sector issues, but did we know the extent? Did we know the extent of excess capacity contracts that have been contracted? And so government had to deal with them.
But we knew. Your ministry knew. When you went there, you knew.
I said
that's why we suggested that the World Bank suggested that some contracts ought to be cancelled and others rescheduled. You knew.
I'm saying that it was when we got in that.
No. It was there before you got there. Mind you, I was working at the ministry before you went there. It was there. It was there before you went there. No, I said, it was there. It was there before you went there.
Okay, please allow him to finish.
Not a problem. But we all got to know that 35% or so of all the invoices that are generated by the IPPs were actually excess capacity payments. You needed to pay. Government contracted debt to pay them down. Not all of it. Then you began the process, of course, working with the IMF at the time when we came 18 months after implementation, most of the targets had not been met. So there was a negotiation to extend it by another year or so to make sure that we ran the cycle to exit, having achieved all the targets. We did that. The economy was growing. In 2020, we were hit by a pandemic that affected every single country in the world. People argue that the impact on Ghana is different from other countries. And why not? Because Ivory Coast, for example, they don't have energy sector and banking sector crisis that I had to deal with. So I would say that we had underlying conditions. So the impact of COVID on our country will be different from what it would be on Togo, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso. Fast forward, you try to then roll out a program to deal with those problems that had arisen. Then we have the challenge that we had with the e-levy in Parliament. Immediately thereafter, you have a war. That disrupts global supply chain and increases freight cost, average, from 2,500 to 18,000. Why? It will impact cost of living. Because imports, and I agree with you when you say that it is not right for Ghana at this level of our development to import guinea fowl from Denmark or tomatoes and onion from Burkina Faso. But government policy, planting for food and jobs, requires private sector to take advantage of those policies to roll out. Okay? And so if we are not responding sufficiently enough, it will create issues. In an attempt to even deal with that problem, Samson, you recall the LI that Katie Amon sought to introduce in Parliament to try and place a cap.
Price control.
No, not the price control, not the cement one.
Okay.
The one that related
things,
to the importation
the
of rice.
and all those things.
What happened? Because you ought to start from somewhere.
Okay.
Look, you lived in America.
I lived in Ghana.
You lived in America. I've checked your profile. I didn't know you before we came here. I've read. You lived in America. I'm not so sure whether 60 years after America's independence, all their problems had been solved.
Oh,
we are a developing country, for crying out loud.
That's such a weak argument.
It can never be.
No.
It can never be. I'm saying that, yes, there are some things that obviously we all ought to work to accelerate. I don't have a difficulty with the view that we should not be importing tomatoes, but these are the policies that government with time.
All right.
Based on your revenue stream that you are able to, and of course, wastage and all that needs to be checked. I agree. Okay? But there's a lot that has been proposed in this document that if the good people of Ghana buy into it and give us the mandate, I'm sure that all things being equal, after 4 years when we come back to seek another mandate, Ghanaians can evaluate and determine that indeed these things have been done and that it is worthy of giving the NPP another opportunity.
Just one
it
question.
Can never be empty.
Just one question and under 1 minute of response. And then I'll get just 2 minutes from all of you, just 2 minutes each, so we can go to the next topic. We were made to understand that Bawumia was not in support of e-levy at cabinet level. He was against it. Some of the MP people came to tell us these things. That's correct, isn't it?
Well, I wasn't there at the time, but yes, that's the position that has been articulated. Yes.
Okay. Now you endorse the scrapping of e-levy.
Yes.
So
that's his vision. Yes.
So you admit that you are wrong on it?
Not at all.
The minority and Ghanaians who were against this were right.
So I've said to you that there was a certain problem that we needed to deal with. You needed to raise revenue, cut your expenditure. You've outlined in your budget all the expenditure cutting measures and the revenue that you were rolling out. The thinking, I believe, at the time, which informed the proposition, was that, look, our economy is not formalized sufficiently enough. There's a whole bunch of transactions that go on the electronic space. People earn revenue, but don't pay taxes.
The thinking that opposed it also had the alternatives
no
that
issues,
will
but
now be implemented
Samson,
if he's voted.
I don't have a problem, but it's all a question of timing. Okay? And at the time, the finance minister and cabinet believed that that revenue stream was going to help. What did we then do as a government to, as it were, reduce the impact that people were complaining of?
Right.
Was taking away the road tolls, which have turned out not to be a good policy. And we have graciously admitted that, and indeed, very recently, the roads minister has indicated government's intention to reintroduce road tolls in a certain manner, okay? Because you want to do private-public partnership in developing some of our infrastructure as a country. Necessarily, they have to recover their investment. And so these things, and so,
right.
Look,
I said
at the time, spoke vociferously in support of the e-levy because I believed in the issues that the finance minister had outlined and the reason why he needed that revenue to enable us meet the commitments of government.
Thank you. So
Dr. Baumia says going forward,
right.
I'm not going to implement this. I'm deploying new strategy that then will enable me to generate sufficient revenue to meet my commitments to the
road tolls will come back. Road tolls, the toll booths have all vanished. That's at the cost of the taxpayer, like you were talking about. So now I need just 2 minutes of your concluding comments. Yes, Inusa, starting with you.
The first thing is that
I'm holding you to it.
Samson, we never abandoned the completion of 4 housing projects.
You did.
No, we didn't. Fred Smith was working here, and he reported on the matter.
Your commitment to it was
we
shambolic.
handed it over on May 25th, March 25th, 2014. We handed it over to Senate to complete, and Senate since completed it.
All right.
Yes. And Fred Smith.
So what happened between 2009 and 2014?
What I'm saying is that we completed it.
So I'm saying that between 2000 and
2017,
you abandoned them.
Between 2000 and 2017 today, you have not even gone to Botima.
Kofi, so you see what they are doing. That's what I was talking about. That's what I'm talking about. You see, Sagleme was sitting there and we're being told, giving excuses.
They both should.
The sugar factory. We're giving excuses upon excuses.
Yes.
We are getting to elections. All of a sudden, we are seeing that something is being done. Yes.
But Samson, Tomia says that by all accounts, the MPP government from 2017 to date has performed more than any other government. Statistics don't lie. In 2016, government deficit was 6.1. In 2020, government deficit was 15%. In 2022, it came down to 12%. How can this be better than 6.1? Growth. In 2016, growth was 3.6%. In 2023, 1.5%. How can this be better than any other government? In 2016, inflation was 15.4%. Inflation, 15.4%. In 2022, inflation rose to 54.1%. In 2023, inflation was 23%. Now it's hovering around 22%, 22.7%. How can this be better than 15.1% in 2016?
All the factors, exogenous factors, all of that, you ignore them.
Well, I'm not ignoring, I'm talking to the statistics.
Hold them at a constant for the period we are talking about.
We are holding them at a constant. At all factors being equal. In 2016, unemployment was 8.4%. In 2023, unemployment started at 14%. Now it's 14.7%. How can this be better? In 2016, food inflation, when we talk about hardship, all things being equal, food inflation should have been dropping or rising at a slower pace. In 2016, food inflation was 8.7%.
The wheat you were getting from Ukraine, you don't get anymore.
In 2000.
So you factor that in.
So the wheat from Ukraine was sustaining us. Making bread. You mean bread was sustaining us? It was the food production. It was the investment that was made into agric. Not Ukraine. We don't eat wheat in Ghana. In 2023, food inflation rose up to 28.7%. That's why there's hardship. And let me conclude by saying that, look, you see, it is important for all of us to know that when we come here and talk, we are seeking to educate Ghanaians on the truth, because the value of truth and honesty should animate political thinking and political talk. You can't perform so disastrously that 80 ministers of yours, 80, sign an agreement and forwarded it to you that you should remove your finance minister.
MPs.
On the MPs. And the condition that, on the claims that your minister was, the policies you were implementing was imposing hardship.
Right. Thank you.
On the people.
Thank you. Yes, Kofi.
Let me conclude.
Your 2 minutes
if it
long
was a parliamentary system of government,
you would have been gone.
Yeah. Have been gone.
Okay.
So Samson,
Yes.
and the whole of Ghana, what we are watching here is a display, MPP against NDC, NDC against MPP, each using each other for a standard that has clearly failed. And we know that. A couple of things. They talk so well about indices and metrics and graphs and percentages. Those are growth numbers. Growth numbers are not the same as development numbers. The indigenous Ghanaian is looking for a place to lay their head, food to eat, water, running common water, potable water. This morning I didn't have water coming in. Education, jobs, meaningful jobs, not the jobs that you go to that you can't come back home. Now, my senior Santa or junior Santa, I don't know which one, I think he's junior Santa. My Santa brother is talking about the fact that MPP created, Baumia is talking about jobs, 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 jobs. When you create jobs from an internal consumption, it adds to liability. It's not real jobs because it's borrowed money that they are using to create the jobs. It's not real money. You don't own the money. It's borrowed money. So you have to understand the difference between real jobs. That's why we need to focus on agriculture. But now the problem with agriculture is last year, 2023, this man, Dr. Baumia, who's talking all this nice glitzy stuff, we spent 26.7 billion cedis on food importation. How do you go from 26.7? You don't know, you have slept for 8 years. You just waking up? This is not my facts. This is, and Samson is looking at it, that's why he's quiet. He would have interrupted me because he knows it's right. This is from the Ghana Statistical Service. 26.7 billion cedis of food. And then you come here and you talk about, oh, Baumia wants to do this and create employment. And to me...
So it's the solutions, and he's talking the solutions.
No, but we have had the solutions. So now another thing, and this is what's scary, Samson. If it's taking you this long to find out solutions after 7 years, you need to be fired a long time. Now, another thing you said.
No.
You need
this
to be
is
fired.
Baumia.
Yeah, I know.
Present is Akufo-Addo.
But this is the danger. You see, now, if Akufo-Addo had said that, you know what Baumia is talking about, I don't agree with, he's a different guy, then he would have had credibility. You know why? Because then that means that all along, Akufo-Addo did not listen to Baumia. So now, he's going to drive us somewhere different. But now, if Akufo-Addo is saying and vouching for Baumia, then it means Baumia has been lying all along, talking to us about, hey, I sat in the cabinet meetings, but nobody listened to me. I wonder why they didn't listen to him. Because obviously, if they listened to him, this would not be the result. Everything he's talking about in the manifesto would have been implemented and would have seen some result.
Dr. Osai Kwapong, your 2 minutes. Concluding comments.
Yes, thank you very much, Samson. So for me, one, our two main political parties, other contestants would throw out ideas, would put forth, things that they believe, if pursued, would help us address all the various socioeconomic governance challenges that the country faces. I've gone through the NPP manifesto, they've laid out quite a number of them. The NDC would lay us out today. Others would do the same. Ultimately, it boils down to the Ghanaian people and who they believe and can trust that would be able to address some of these things. The other quick point that I want to make is, and I know it's traditionally not been part of the way we roll out our manifestos, but for me, the cost of some of these promises has to be dealt with. Last week, I wrote that for Daily Graphic. If you look at our fiscal picture, some of the projections in the budget, I think it will be very important to start at least attaching some cost to some of these very key promises. Even if you look at e-levy, repealing the e-levy, if we went by the projections of e-levy in the FY24 budget, we are talking between now and the next 3 fiscal years, almost about 8 billion lost in revenue, right? You would want to see how some of the candidates plan then to offset some of these things. I mean, I know at this stage, when you bring up, well, how much will these things cost? You're likely to get the response, we are talking about the ideas, concepts now. But I want to bring people's minds back to something Akufo-Addo did in 2012, when the cost of free SHS was coming up in that campaign. If you recall, he actually gave a speech where he laid out how much it can potentially cost us and how much of our GDP or oil revenue we can take to cover some of that. Yes, it was an estimate, it was a projection, but I think we have to really demand from the candidates and the parties some idea of, how much will these things cost and who is going to pay for it, because there is no such thing as a free lunch.
Thank you very much. Dr. John Osai Kwapong is Democracy and Development Fellow, CDD Ghana, and Director, the Democracy Project. Inus Husseini is lawyer, former MP, Tamale Central, and former Minister Lands and Natural Resources, and later Roads and Highways. Andrew Ejapamesa is MP, he's a lawyer MP, Second D, and Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture. Before, he was in the energy sector, and you could tell when he began to speak about on that area with so much confidence. Kofi Koranting is 2024 presidential hopeful, New Vision Movement. I suppose my advertisement of him lived up to the billing. We'll be right back.
Mission number one is that let us see full implementation of the recommendations of Ayawaso West Wogon Commission of Inquiry. We want to see prosecution initiated in respect of the illegal printing and handling of several, about 1 million extra ballot papers. We have not heard anything about it. We want action on it now. Otherwise, the next election, the same people can go and now print more than 2 million. The Electoral Commission has not been open to us. We suspect that the equipment is not missing, and they are being hidden for some unwholesome agenda. We have our confidence in the IT systems at the Electoral Commission has been shaken, and we want, point number 5, the president to declare openly on a state platform, not on his political party platform, that he will respect the will of the people as expressed by the outcome of the 2024 December election results. Finally, before any such document, peace pact is submitted to us for signature, we want to see the IGP sign into that document. We want to see the Chief Justice sign into that document. We want to see the Attorney General signing to that document. And we want to see the National Security Coordinator signing to that document. If all of them sign, and the monitoring group commits itself to the policy of naming and shaming publicly anybody who reneges on his obligation as far as implementation of the electoral laws of this country are concerned, we think that we will have the way forward.
We would have to negotiate them. That is how we started. We'll be with the MPP. We are hoping that in the next few days we are going to engage with the new Patriotic Party, as well as other key actors in the field. And we are hopeful that we'll be able to surmount any challenges that we have. It is in our interest so to do, to assure not only this generation, but those who will follow us, that we did the right thing when the matters was most the matter was most needed. I think we will rise up to the occasion. The board and the committee that have been set up would look into these issues and respond to them timeously.
Just clarifying, your plan is to negotiate with the NDC around these 6 conditions.
Yes, you have to negotiate. I mean, it's a position that they have given. Negotiation means that you would have to discuss. I mean, we may not be able to meet all the requirements, but if that is the essence of mediation.
So, Minister Hussaini, you, the NDC and the NPP, like the Afrobarometer suggests to us, why people have a certain mistrust in the democracy. The two of you, when you are in power, everything the EC does is good. Everything the Peace Council does is good. When you are not in power, it's like they become the devil. Why all these conditions to sign a peace pact to promote peaceful elections and to agree to accept results and all of that? Ayawaso West will go on by election and a short commission or committee recommendations must be, fully implemented. There must be prosecution of the, 2020 election violence perpetrators where 8 people were killed. Ballot paper irregularities, investigation of missing EC equipment, Akufo-Addo to commit to prosecuting election offenses, respecting the outcome of the election. And then you want the Attorney General, the President first, the Attorney General, the IGP, the Chief Justice, and National Security Coordinator to sign onto this peace pact. Why?
Samson, thank you so very much. This is a very important topic, and as a student of politics and democracy, I'll try to be as objective as possible. You told me, and all your viewers this morning, that democracy is receding in Ghana. That as much as 23% of the people of Ghana do not believe in our democracy. And that represents a veritable threat.
Because of what you guys make of it.
That represents, that's what I'm saying, I have to be, as a student.
Yeah, go ahead.
That represents a veritable threat to our democracy. And anybody who has lived under a democratic regime will not want to live under any other regime. And so we must be worried. Now, democracy thrives when there is citizen participation. The political parties are citizens of this country. The officers of the political parties are citizens of this country. So, and democracy is consolidated when institutions established by the state operate in an honest, transparent, and open manner. Then you can now repose, or if you want, invest confidence in those institutions, because you will know that they will be fair, impartial. Now, apart from the right to life, in my view, the right to exercise a choice is so fundamental that it should not be restricted. And all of us know, including the current president, that vigilantism has represented a threat to our thriving democracy. And so that is why attempts have been made in the past to deal with vigilantism. When vigilantism or violence is perpetuated by state apparatus, then it becomes more worrying. Now, democracy and peace is built on justice. Justice. And justice is secured on the wings of accountability. It is not for nothing that our motto is freedom and justice. Freedom to act within the confines of the law and to have justice when you are wronged. Now, which of these 6 requirements, if we say that we are investing in the peace of this country, tell me, which of these 6 requirements is difficult to fulfill?
1, Ayawaso's Wogon report.
Yes.
What is left? There was a white paper where you have a disagreement. Is partly Brian Champon, who the report said ought to be reprimanded.
Yes.
The government issued a white paper. And you know what the law says?
Yes.
The government did not accept everything. The guy who was to be prosecuted for assault of St. George,
yes,
for slapping him,
yes,
the government said that was provocation. So they disagree with, I still can't wrap my mind around that, my head around that issue. That you have eminent persons, respected persons like Emil Francis Short, Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu, and Kwating, the former IGP. They come with a recommendation, and the white paper cherry picks and tells them, go to hell with this.
I knew where you were going.
But here is the point. The point of law is that the white paper did not accept everything. It did not accept that Brian Champon should be reprimanded. So what is this thing about it should be implemented in full?
What white paper are you talking about? Is that what the Constitution requires?
Yes.
That you cherry pick. When there's issue a white paper, you can cherry pick. Is that what the Constitution
That's what we know.
That's what you know, but is that what the Constitution says? The Constitution doesn't give the president the power to cherry pick. In establishing the committee of inquiry or commission of inquiry, did the president use his pocket money? The Constitution doesn't give him that power. And again, that is how impunity thrives. I tell you today on your set.
But government from time immemorial.
Repeating mistakes has never been experienced. As a lawyer, if you are always repeating mistakes in court, that doesn't make you an experienced lawyer. So even though governments have been doing that, it doesn't make it right. And what the chairman of the NDC and Asedun Katia is saying is that let's right the wrongs. How is that difficult?
How are you going to get such a demand? There's a white paper that says, I don't agree with everything the commission said. So it is only those we agree with,
including
we accept.
Including giving security uniform, Azogo giving security uniform to people sitting in a circle to go and visit violence on individuals who are exercising their rights under the Constitution to determine who represents them in Parliament. You think that that's good for our democracy? You don't think that that also has a bearing?
The white paper forecloses the other issues we want to relitigate. The white paper
forecloses the other issues and makes our democracy a threat. You don't see the link? You don't see the link. You don't see that what happened in Ayawaso was a foreplay of what was going to happen in the 2020 elections? You don't see it? You don't see that the 8 people who were murdered for no just reason will have their family not interested in our democracy?
Talk about the 8 people. The Ayawaso report, the white paper said those instances where there was supposed to be prosecution that the government accepted, it referred to the Criminal Investigations Department, police. It's their job. In the 2020 elections, people were killed. It is the job of the police. So who are you making this demand from?
The Peace Council. Because when I was in Parliament and we were establishing the Peace Council, we said we needed people with integrity. We needed people with moral turpitude. We said we needed people who were not manifestly political. Because as an institution, they have to pursue peace and ensure that Ghana is peaceful always.
What should they do?
So, if they have referrals to the police, the Peace Council cannot say, because the referrals are to the police, we have nothing to do with it. They have the duty, as a Peace Council, to take the issues and get to the police and see what they're doing about those issues. They have that duty. And is it too much? If you are going to elections and you have your registered population of voters, and then you can only print 10% additional of the votes, and you have 1 million extra votes printed illegally, who directed the printing of the 1 million votes? Who directed that? You need to know. Will it be repeated? Impunity is what disturbs our democracy. And so let's begin to hold people accountable. That's what the General Secretary is saying. And the chairman of the party is saying. And I don't think that is too much. Peace is built on the foundation of justice. Without that, you can't have peace. You remember growing up, we used to sing Peter Tosh's song. People talk about peace, but he talks about equal rights and what? And justice. Because that is the foundation on which peace is built. I mean, the
EC equipment
BVD,
missing issue. It is in the court, is it not?
He says
the criminal process is there.
He's not saying that EC just to bring the BVDs. He didn't say that.
So investigate it.
Investigate it. Honest, transparent, public.
Okay.
Let us investigate it so that everybody will understand what has happened. He didn't say prosecute people. He said investigate it through an honest, transparent platform. So all of us know.
As Akufo-Addo said anywhere that he will not respect the elections outcome, like maybe Trump has said elsewhere.
Statements which no president has made in this country. I'm going to hand over to Bawumia. He has no that authority.
It's a wish he made. He didn't say, I will not hand over if an opposition person wins.
So he says he's going to hand over to Bawumia. That his people should work to hand over. So that's emboldened.
He's been clear that it's a wish he had.
So that's emboldened people like Brian Champon to make those weird statements. Okay? Because he's the president.
All governing parties make that wish that they will hand over to somebody that springs out of them.
Oh, that's a wish. They were saying that as the father of the nation, the president should simply assure us that he will respect the outcome of the elections.
Does he have an option, do you think, in our democratic
I know he has no option.
where we have come to?
I agree with you.
Akufo-Addo has an option to say, but if Alan wins or Kofi Kranton gets on the ballot, he wins, and maybe NDC wins, Akufo-Addo can say, I will hand over.
Samson, you don't need to believe it. I agree with you. He has no option.
So why is that a demand?
It's a path, mere path. He can't even do anything. I agree with you. He's already a lame duck president. I agree with you. But he's the father of the nation, for God's sake. His statements should be uniting this country. If for nothing at all, it's a legacy he can leave. That he left a united country.
And the request on the Peace Council to make sure that the president is also signing, the Attorney General is signing IGP.
No, not the president. We have not said the president. We haven't said the president.
You said the president.
No, we said the president must make a public declaration to respect the outcome of the
No, he has asked that the president should sign it, the AG should sign it. IGP,
no, after seven. He says Chief Justice, AG, IGP, and National Security Coordinator. That's what he said. He didn't say the president. He said CJ. And you know CJ.
Please play me that Essie Dunketia video back. The very first part. Play it back to me quickly.
Condition number one is that let us see full implementation of the recommendations of Ayawaso West, Wogon, Commission of Inquiry, We want to see prosecution initiated in respect of the illegal printing and handling of several, about 1 million extra ballot papers. We have not heard anything about it. We want action on it now. Otherwise, the next election, the same people can go and now print more than 2 million. The Electoral Commission has not been open to us. We suspect that the equipment is not missing, and they are being hidden for some unwholesome agenda. We have our confidence in the IT systems at the Electoral Commission has been shaken. And we want, point number 5, the president to declare openly on a state platform, not on his political party platform, that he will respect the will of the people as expressed by the outcome of the 2024 December election results. Finally, before any such document, peace pact is submitted to us for signature, we want to see the IGP signing to that document. We want to see the Chief Justice signing to that document.
All right.
That's what we want.
Okay, so the president is out.
No, the president is out.
Why must it change now? It has always been signed by you, the parties, and so on. Why now?
You don't want improvement. If we are doing something and some other thing can improve what we have been doing, you don't want it. The whole country and system is built on.
What's the purpose? What's the purpose?
First of all, IGP is the police. He deploys the police. He's responsible for security. He signs on it. He knows that he has a commitment to ensure that there's peace. And any of his officers who goes contrary to what he has signed to, he will deal with that person.
But they already are bound by the laws of Ghana and their operations.
The laws of Ghana.
If they go wrong, they'll be dealt with.
The laws of Ghana frown upon offenses, election-related offenses. Don't we see them? And you know why we want the IGP to sign? In the political party's law, if you are going to prosecute for an electoral offense, you need the consent of the AG. You need it.
That's why you need the AG to also sign.
Sign. You need a consent. So he signs and says, look.
I've never understood why you, the politicians, you put that there in the law.
I've also never
The police cannot prosecute election offenses unless they have the consent in writing of the Attorney General.
So you see why we say...
You guys deliberately put it
you see why we say it should go. In the absence... we are not in government. In the absence of...
My private members are not proposing bills in this administration.
Of any amendment to the law, IGP, commit yourself.
Chief Justice.
The courts. Make sure that when those things come, you know that you have a commitment to ensure that the peace of the country is maintained.
They don't need that for that commitment.
We need it for the abundance of what?
Caution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Abundant.
I'll be right back. You're welcome back. And Newsfile is brought to you by Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. My Way Insurance, dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. DBS International, where every child... DPS International, where every child shines. And on the law tomorrow at 2 p.m., join me because Dennis Law, there's a massive marriage seminar on legal issues that is coming up in the ensuing week. And we're trying to get a bit into it even before they start. Are you sure you are married? My guest will be Justice Alexander Osei, Justice of the Superior Court of Ghana, Dr. Justice Shramsai, and then Dennis J. Jumo. Are you sure you're married? Join me tomorrow, 2 p.m. on The Law. That's your legal light, and that is your help law. And my outfit, always on the show, is by Konati Clothing. You can reach them 0244 67 67 32. 0244 67 67 32. Thank you very much. Now, this is a subject that Colonel Festus Abuaji writes on, and he says that there's a need to prioritize, to move from the prioritization of appearances over meaningful action. There is a weak monitoring and implementation mechanism of the peace pact, and that is not good enough. Meanwhile, the peace pact, he says, has contributed to Ghana's relatively peaceful elections compared to other countries in the region. Violence still occurs, but we still must do it. The pact has sometimes reduced violence, contributed to political stability, and fostered dialogue among the party. However, it has not been universally effective in eliminating electoral violence. It has to be transformed from the peace pact, from a symbolic gesture into a substantive commitment to democratic integrity. Now, Ajapa Mesa, there also we're going to think there are aspects that remain unimplemented. Some, it is government that has to do them. Compensation. Why are they not paid up till now?
Well, I don't have the details, okay, about what has and what has not been implemented. But that said, I don't think that making it a condition for signing the 2024 one is the way to go. Because in that case, then it reduces the issue to the usual banter between MPP and NDC.
It is signed. Violence come up. They are not punished. The 2020 elections, 20 people killed.
I was going to deal with that. That then it reduces it to the usual MPP, NDC banter of equalization. Okay, where people also make references to previous elections and violence that were associated with those elections that have till date remained unresolved. Okay, I think that it's good to raise the issues, express your reservations, but because of the important role that this peace pact plays in, like Dr. Festus Abuaji said, go ahead to execute it. Okay, but to make it a condition clearly is heightening political tension, which, as far as I'm concerned, is needless.
He says bring in the judiciary, let them sign. If the judiciary signs, they can commit to what Festus Abuaji says, establishment of a specialized electoral court to swiftly and fairly adjudicate election-related disputes.
The judiciary will so to prosecute their cases if in the unlikely event or in the event that they occur. What role does the Chief Justice play? I feel to say the National Security Coordinator will do that. Okay, yes, of course, the police, like you said, they are enjoined by law to prosecute offenses, including electoral violence. Surprising to me, I haven't seen the provision on the need.
Is there
no,
section,
I'm not doubting you.
Section 4041, I think. Yes, of the Representation of the People Act.
But if it's something that has been problematic all these years, I'm surprised we haven't taken steps to repeal it or amend the law to reflect the need for, to take away that requirement. Our friends in opposition are proffering all sorts of private members' bill. And so there's a remedy that is available through Parliament if you are minded that that provision be taken out, rather than asking, after all, the Attorney General, this doesn't take away the power of the Attorney General for nolli prosequi, right?
No.
Yes, so really asking the Attorney General to sign, to make it look as if he's signing would then compel him to prosecute matters.
Okay, so it's actually Section 42. No person shall be prosecuted for an offense under this law without the consent in writing of the Attorney General, except that this section shall not prevent a person being charged with such an offense,
and this was
arrested with or without warrant in respect of the offense or remanded, so the police can arrest, do all the things they are.
It's a 1992 legislation.
It's a PNDC law.
No. Yeah.
1992. Yeah.
1992 legislation.
Yeah.
So I agree that we need to take some steps to, as it were, amend it. But he says that we are in government. But you are making it a condition. I'm saying that in this fourth Republican dispensation, especially in this 8th Parliament, started in the 7th. A lot of public members' bills have been
private members' bills.
Private members' bill have been
all right.
accepted by the Speaker. You know.
Okay.
But otherwise, then our friends are just preparing the ground for an imminent loss.
No.
Okay.
And,
yes.
and an excuse for them to create
Samson,
million.
What do you say about the demands?
Then go ahead and sign it.
Well, a couple of things. When you sit and you listen to the NDC make demands, and you hear the response from our brothers and sisters on the other side, the MPP, it's a confirmation that government has failed. And the reason why that's a confirmation is because I'm actually surprised by the NDC's demands, and talking about our senior brother, Mr. Hussaini, talk about, it has to be, human. What do you say? It's a human. It's a violation of human rights. And Mahama and the NDC were the same people who told us they were going to implement ROPA. You remember? September 2014 in Worcester, USA. Mahama came and said he was going to. Well, you guys forgot you were infringing on people's human rights then? It wasn't an issue then, right? Now all of a sudden it's an issue.
To implement ROPA can never be an infringement of human rights.
No, don't let him take your time. You have just a minute.
Okay, yeah. So it's a violation.
The rights.
No, you're not. So it's just like you said, Samson. Yeah. When they are in power, they see from a different perspective. All of a sudden, their realities change, and this is why we want to come in. Kofi Kranting wants to come in to set the agenda right for the entire Ghanaians, and not just for MPP, NDC to be pointing fingers, because it doesn't help anything. There is a problem with the way governance is offered to the rest of Ghanaians based on just the demands of the NDC. Something is definitely wrong if you are going into an election and you want the AG to sign, you want the IGP to sign, you want, what is this? It's like we're going to war or something in Iraq.
Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, what do you say in some 30 seconds? Is it not a fair demand that we sign it all the time, but the breaches go on and there are no punishment, there are no sanctions, so there's no point signing it anyway?
But, politics also has its rituals, and sometimes these symbols also matter in the way we conduct ourselves. For me, my only caution to the NDC is that I don't want them to put themselves into a situation where they become vulnerable to political attack, quote-unquote, political attacks that they are not for a peaceful election. That's my only worry, and so I hope they can balance the sensitivity.
Well, one of the independent presidential hopefuls is sending me a message. He's saying that if Ayawaso had happened whilst NDC was in government and the Techiman brutalities had happened while the NDC was in government, you can expect that the NPP will make these demands.
Likely, but we can't deal in counterfactuals, right? My only point is that I just hope that the NDC would balance its insistence on meeting these conditions before signing the peace pact with some of the potential political realities that
I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful, Dr. John Osai-Kwapong of the CDD, Inus of Hussaini, Andrew Ejapamesa, and Kofi Kranting. Coming up, we have your star-studded team of the best political team on TV and on radio, leading you through the NDC's manifesto launch. So wait for Winston Amwa, Evans Mensah, and the host of the team here. I'm Samson Lardy Anyenini. This has been Newsfile. Have a good afternoon.